Okay, welcome to our August 4th weekly Care Center family update. It's just me today. Stacy had another meeting and Gail had something else that she was having to do. So after 2 weeks of me being gone, now I'm here. Okay. Oh goodness, that's not what I wanted now. Bear with me. Okay. We're going to skip over. We kind of know what our general agenda is. So Kristen put together some of the resident moments from the last week. Now, are these different from last week's?
I think the one picture on the right, that might be new. The guy
Okay.
with the green cap, I think that's new. The others, I think I've seen myself.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think that's right. Yeah, I think that one's new.
Okay. Well, I know they continue to do the golf cart visits and they're doing lots of outdoor visits um, with family and friends. So that just keeps on. Um, in August, can't remember what the date is, they're going to be having a carnival in the courtyard for the residents. So I know they've got lots of fun games and treats for everybody. So there'll be more info to come on that and more pictures too. So just a brief overview of what the statistics look like worldwide in our country and then in Minnesota. In Lacoparle County, where we are, we're still just sitting at that 6. Now, we've been at 6 for, boy, I feel like a couple weeks. So technically, those people who tested positive are most likely off their quarantine right now. But our surrounding counties, Chippewa, Swift, they continue to kind of creep up there. 0 facility occurrences. We have no positive COVID residents, assisted living tenants, or staff. So we feel very fortunate about that. The essential caregiver, I know Stacy talked about that last week, and the draft, the draft policy and letter got sent out to everybody. Did you guys get those?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm thinking my brother maybe got one,
Okay.
but I haven't talked to him. They're on vacation, so I'm assuming he would probably get one. I haven't gotten anything, and I don't think my sister has.
I'm guessing it got sent out to whoever the primary contact is.
Okay, that would be my brother.
Okay. Yeah, that's probably who got it. So there will not be a whole lot of changes, if any, to that policy. We're still working on figuring out the scheduling part of it and the designation of the essential caregivers. Gail and I are actually going to meet tomorrow about that. A group of us met today to kind of just brainstorm and think about our residents and who comes to mind when we think of essential caregivers for the residents that we have right now. And all of us were able to name a couple of residents that we think about, you know, before COVID, who were their regular people that would be here weekly, sometimes daily, to provide that emotional support and kind of be that go-to person that's here for them. And those are the people that we'd like to designate as an essential caregiver. There's not a limit on how many essential caregivers a resident can have. All of our visits, ideally, we like them to take place outside if possible. But the essential caregiver, we do have some leniency to have some of those take place indoors, whether it be in the room or in our chapel area. And the essential caregiver visits will likely be more frequent too. So trying to get back to that pre-COVID of the resident being used to, seeing that person, that supportive person on a fairly regular basis. Again, we will be doing the screening, the temping, masking, social distancing, hand hygiene. All of that will be asked of the essential caregivers. Probably the biggest part that you guys have not received yet would be who to contact, and if you feel like you meet those criteria of becoming an essential caregiver, how do you become designated as one? And that is the part that Gail and I are going to talk about tomorrow, and kind of figure out a process so that it's consistent. Most likely it will be me as the contact person, and then I'll talk to the team, and then we'll make that designation. We are still open to people coming for outdoor visits. If you're somebody that only visits once a month, or because of distance, or whatever the reasons are, those visits we still want to take place. There have been some exceptions made where if someone's coming from a great distance, maybe they have a longer, well, here's Stacy, I'm going to admit her. So if there's a longer distance, we've allowed for a longer visit to take place. And dependent on the resident and the weather, we have allowed some visits to happen in the chapel. So it's not a one size fits all on where the visits will take place, how long they are. It's really, we're wanting it to be whatever's right for the resident, and whatever's safe too. So I know that's kind of wishy-washy, but I don't want to put it in policy or set in stone saying this is the criteria for each of these types of visits we have, because I know there's going to be circumstances that we need to work with. So we will definitely try to work with everybody as we can. Expect to see something come out in the mail, hopefully early next week, giving you the name, phone number, how you guys can contact us to get that essential caregiver designation. Until that time, I invite people to continue to call the activities department and schedule your visits. Whoops, sorry, I gotta put my phone on in a meeting. You're certainly welcome to call me if you have some unique circumstance, and we can definitely work through that. Again, just a review of the outdoor visits. We've been seeing a lot of those this week, so that's fun to see everybody outside. Let's see here. Oh, one thing that didn't get on our PowerPoint, the frequency of our family Zoom meetings. I'd like to try doing one a month unless there is some big change that we need to push out to everybody. So we'd like to decrease these to monthly, and post-COVID, we'd like to offer this, just continuing moving forward, just to be able to have that virtual connection with families. And I find this platform a lot better than getting a letter in the mail or something like that. This feels a lot more personal. But if something comes out from the Department of Health that we want to get communicated, we'll definitely shoot out an email to everyone and then schedule an extra call. But moving forward, we'll do one of these once a month. So be looking for an email from Kristen with the date of that. We haven't decided if it's going to be the first, second, third Tuesday. So we will get that information out to everybody. And questions. We've got plenty of time for questions today.
How is Lac qui Parle doing their school restarting process?
So Lac qui Parle County is one of the counties that is designated to go back. All students go back full time. I know the Dawson Boyd School District was having a board meeting last night. Was that right, Stacy?
Yep.
Do you know, did they come out with a plan yet?
I think it was well, I only caught the tail end of it, but I listened to the superintendent talk about the plan the night before. And so they're following the parameters of the state of Minnesota, just like Lac qui Parle is. So if we get so many positives, because as soon as they identify a positive, they'll isolate and send home. But as soon as they get so many positives, and it's per 10,000 kids, which we don't have that many, 10,000 in your population. Once we start to inch over that, they will just close down. So there will be a point on those guidelines that they're just going to follow what's set by Minnesota, that they will, I think there's a one standard for the school if there's so many positives in the school, and then there's one standard for the community. And they'll be following both those standards as we move forward. But right now, like Amanda said, they're moving forward with the plans to fully open.
So they're following the general guideline of the state and then independently by a county.
Yeah, it's kind of by
meaning it to fit, right?
County. I mean, it could be the city of Dawson, it could be the city of, but it's there's a formula set, and I just don't know the exact formula, but it's out on, I think it's on the governor's website and the Minnesota Department of Health. But there's a formula preset that the schools are to follow. And I don't know if it's a guideline, but both schools are following that guideline.
Okay.
That was just released on, was it Monday or Friday? Well, that has just been released.
I have a question about the essential care visits.
Mm-hmm.
Will they be scheduled like the outdoor visits where there are a limited number of them and you have to schedule the time, and some days may be full, so you would have to look at some other dates?
That's a good question. We talked about that today too, our group that met. And I'm not going to give you a super clear answer on that. You know, for the sake of staff knowing when to expect people, we'd like to try to have them scheduled as much as we can, just so we know if it's going to be during business hours, we have the person go to our main entrance. If it's an after hours visit, we would have you go to one of the neighborhood entrances, and the nurse would have to make sure to meet you at the door. So there will be some sense of scheduling, just so our staff that are working, especially weekends and after hours, know when to expect people. But like I had said, there's a potential for these visits to be more frequent rather than, you know, you get your one visit a week. The essential caregiver visits are really, how I understand it, are really meant to look at what things were like for that caregiver pre-COVID. So if you were someone that that came every single day at 10 o'clock in the morning and read the newspaper to your mom or your dad, that's something that we would want to try to get back into a normal routine of things. And kind of a fun story that I just heard today, we have a couple of residents who are receiving what we call the compassionate care visits, which mimic the essential caregiver visits. They kind of overlap in a lot of ways. But the two residents who have been getting more frequent visits, the visits have been some of them in their room. Staff has seen huge improvements in these gentlemen's mood. They're carrying on conversations again with people. They're eating better. Just their general posture at the dining room table is better. So it is just a testimony to how important it is for us to not be isolated from our loved ones. So that was really fun to hear.
So is there a possibility that two individuals from the same family could do the essential care visits at the same time?
Yep, there's not a limit of how many essential caregivers can be designated. If we do a visit in the resident's room, I wouldn't think we would allow any more than 3 people, just because of the distancing that gets kind of tight. But even if one person is an essential caregiver and one person is not, we could still look at that individual situation and say, you know what, yep, we're going to allow this in-room visit, or hey, how about let's have you meet down in the chapel. So it, like I said, it's not going to be an all or none. We're happy to look at the situation and work with you.
Does the resident have to wear a mask during those?
We strongly encourage it for them to wear a mask as long as they can tolerate it. We are finding that some of them with lung issues, it's hard for them to breathe and then to try to talk at the same time. And some of them have a much quieter voice, so it's hard for the families to hear it because the masks kind of muffle that. So if the resident needs to have it off, that's okay. Then we just really have to make sure that there's the social distancing, and the visitor has to have the mask on at all times.
You'd mentioned frequency of family Zoom meetings. So you're referring to this meeting that you're going to probably decrease it to once a month, correct?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
I was curious about the courtyard carnival. Is that something, you maybe don't know, maybe this is more for the activities department. Would that be done in smaller groups like throughout the day, so not everybody would be out there at the same time?
Yep. We would bring, whether it's 5, 6 residents out. Whoops. Sorry. If I don't move long every so often, my light shuts off in my office. So, I'm sorry.
That's for when you take naps during the day. You can get the.
My boss is on the call. Don't tell her that.
We only did that to Amanda's office.
Goodness. Okay. Now what were we talking about?
Bringing people through in smaller
Yes.
groups.
The carnival.
Carnival.
Yep. They'll bring smaller groups out there. They're going to have fun carnival food, popcorn, cotton candy, mini donuts. They've got a lot of fun things planned.
Is that something new?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I guess there may even be a pony.
Oh, goodness.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
I was curious about the dining room. I think for quite some time the residents were eating in their room, and some could come out, but maybe they were there'd be one or two at the table. Is that still the same, or is that loosened up a little as far as more dining in small groups?
Residents can come out to the dining room, but we have to have the 6 feet between them. So with how the size of our tables, it ends up being 1 resident per table. We have a couple of tables that are large enough where we can have 2. But we've pulled in some other tables so we can have as many residents out as possible. And we're trying to offer different ones to come out. Like if you come out for noontime, then for supper time you stay in and someone else can come out. So they're definitely trying to make sure that everybody gets out at least for 1 meal a day. And the majority of the residents come out for breakfast because it's staggered enough. It's staggered enough in the morning that we can accommodate all of them coming to the dining room at different times.
Okay. I was just curious, now that baseball has started again, I would think some of the residents are baseball fans. I don't know if you can get the residents can get the baseball games in their room at all?
Yeah, if they have cable, absolutely. And I think Activities is pretty good about knowing who our baseball fans are and making sure that they get that turned on.
I know my mom is a baseball fan, but I don't know. I used to send her in the past when there were games going on. This was actually Timberwolves basketball. I think I would send her schedules, but I'm not sure if she even looked at the schedules so that she knew they were on. So,
Sure.
But I would think there would be some baseball fans
Mhm.
in amongst the residents. So hopefully they were tuning in the way the season is going. I don't know if it's going to keep going or not, but as long as there's games, and
Yeah.
they make it sound, I mean, they make it sound like there's noise at the games, and it sounds somewhat
I
real.
know. And then they
So,
have those big faces of people sitting in
Yeah.
it's very odd.
That's
Yeah.
the new normal.
Yeah. I will talk to Gail and her staff. I feel like the daily newsletter that they give to the residents, that they might put, if there's a Twins game on, they might put a reminder on there. So I'll find that out.
how many does the bus rides where they go out and about? How many residents? Is there like 2 or 3 residents on at a time?
Let me just go back to those pictures. Whoop. So it looks like for sure 3 people at least
Okay.
on the bus, maybe 4. The golf cart, I think it can be 2 residents and 1 or 2 staff.
So I would think that would be quite popular.
Oh yeah. Yep.
And then I was just going to follow up. I don't know. I'm sorry I was late. I was on another call that I couldn't get away from. But I think in our last call, I think Diane, you mentioned a suggestion of possibly getting a list of the activities that.
Yeah, if there was some sort of,
Mhm.
I'd mentioned if I had a dream list, there'd be some sort of portal system where if each resident had, you could go in and look to see what was going on, what they were participating in. Maybe if you had a username and password, so you could go in and just see. That was something in my, like I said, on my wish list. That would be good, especially like I mentioned for my sister. She lives in Switzerland. I don't know if she's going to get here this year or not. So at least when she makes her phone calls, she could, kind of see what my mom has participated in. And although my mom may not remember, but she can ask her questions about what activities she's been involved in.
Mm-hmm.
I did follow up with our activities person on that, and they're always trying to find the best way to do that. We do have some pretty cool through a grant, some pretty cool equipment called It's Never Too Late, that we're going to be getting trained on and sharing, or training all the residents on, and then, or residents and staff on, but that won't occur until next March. But the problem is that we do have some, I don't know if you call it privacy rules, but
Sure.
that some residents don't want their family members knowing things, and some do. And some can call all the shots and others need help. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the activities director said really to again reiterate that you can definitely call Gail at any time and she will give you a rundown on what that particular resident interests are and what they've been attending, as well as we do now, I think we shared it a couple weeks ago, shared the number of touches as a whole organization that the residents are getting, so you guys at least see what is happening, so that might generate some discussion. But individual, we haven't figured out a perfect system for that yet. We know it's a wish list. We'd all want it ourselves. So I would say just hold tight over the next bit of time here. We're hoping it's never too late, might spark some more discussions and allow everyone to connect remotely on a more meaningful way with their loved ones here. But we need a little time to get that going and not sure how that will all pan out. But again, just to reiterate that, yeah, call Gail directly, email her directly. She's happy to talk to you about any specific resident to give you more detailed info.
I was just looking at something that would perhaps take less of the staff's time, where we could just access that ourselves instead of having the staff do it, because I know that's time consuming on their part.
Yeah, we looked at a couple system possibilities, nothing that isn't more rework to get that into a format that would be easily transmitted and understandable, as well as just making sure that things are shared in a way that honors what the resident wants shared. So we're kind of working on a few things, and I think Gail has some really good plans for that coming up, but it'll be a little bit.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions?
I don't suppose card playing has resumed. Not that my mother plays cards, but I know one of the residents there, he's from my mom's hometown. He's a diehard card player, so I suppose that cannot resume yet.
That hasn't resumed yet, no. We have some pretty disappointed men that
Yeah.
are missing their card parties, yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's too bad, but that's, I mean, safety comes first, so.
Yeah. All right, well, be on the lookout for an email from Kristen. Also check your email for that letter that will come out next week talking about the process for essential caregiver visits and being designated as that. And we'll see you guys next time we have one of these calls. Thanks for coming on today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Bye.
Bye-bye.